Welcome to the Be Zen Wellness Podcast, where we journey through personal stories of transformation and resilience.
This is a space for us to share insights from our experiences and the wisdom of the experts and mentors who have guided us.
I'm your host, Jonah Boersma, certified life and relationship coach.
And I'm your host, Brittany Boersma, registered yoga teacher, breathwork facilitator, and ceremonialist.
If you're enthusiastic about personal development, you're in the right place.
Let's dig in. Hello, welcome. Just to open up this conversation, I'm going to invite all of us to take a deep breath. Big inhale through the nose. Open your mouth and just sigh it out. Nice cleansing breath. Now it feels like we can start. Welcome, friends. We are so honored and grateful to have our dear sister, mentor, and guide, Anahata Ananda, here with us today, all the way from Sedona, Arizona.
Thank you.
We love you.
I know. And we've had such a beautiful relationship over the years that it's so beautiful to see it come full circle. And for you guys to step up and offer this podcast to the community is really a culmination of all the transformation, the healing and the breakthroughs that you've said yes to and what you've said goodbye to. So thanks for bringing this podcast.
Yeah. Thank you. It's our pleasure.
Y'all, Anahata Ananda is a powerhouse, and I just have to read you this bio because she's incredible. She is the founder of Shine Sedona's Sanctuary for the Soul. This is an incredible place that offers transformational programs, trainings, retreats, and one-on-one sessions from amazing facilitators and practitioners all year round. You got to check it out. She is an expert at blending compassion and tenderness of an angel with the strength and the wisdom of a shaman, and has over 20 years of experience supporting tens of thousands of heart-centered, transformative experiences for people, which we've also gotten to experience. Yeah. Anahata has trained extensively with gifted shamans, energy workers, energy healers, and spiritual teachers from North America, Peru, India, and Asia, all over the place, where she has artfully integrated energy healing, shamanic teachings, emotional release, and self-empowered living. Anahata is a master healer, and she has been training lightworkers and healers in various shamanic healing modalities and breathwork facilitation techniques for over a decade. Like, what an amazing person, right? Like, she is a powerhouse. And I just want to say thank you so much, Anahata, for being here and for also offering us and the listeners your free gift, which we're going to be including in the show notes. It is a guided visualization for inner child healing. And I can't wait to check it out. And I can't wait for all of you to check it out as well. Thank you so much for offering that to us.
My pleasure. You know, we're just here to support people to find themselves again. That's it. That's all we're doing is we're coming home to the truth of who we are. We're shedding the shackles and the lies and the wounds that are just in the way of our radiance. And, you know, that's been the presence of our relationship is to help you guys find that. And it's been such an honor to do that for so many people. It's so nourishing for the soul. And that's where Shine comes in, is that it's a sanctuary for the soul. And our mission is to inspire millions to shine. And then that is just looking at what's in the way of your radiance. Is there limiting beliefs? Is there a trauma? Is there energy, core wounds that are in the way? And it's like, okay, let's just shine a light. Let's move it out. Let's give better tools. And let's get to the business of being in alignment and shining.
Yeah.
I love that you say we just shine a light on it, because Brittany, when she was going through your training, came up with a nickname for you, and that was the Shadow Blaster. And I think it's fitting.
Yeah.
Well, I think it takes radical courage, but also that compassion that you're talking about. Because looking at the shadow, our insecurities, our pain, our wounds, our fears, and our doubts, it's not an easy process always. And that's where I think compassion, as well as courage, to go into the shadow, look at the thing, excavate it, release it, learn from it, and move on from it more integrated and more whole. That's where the transformation starts accelerating and the growth happens quicker. Mm-hmm. And instead of just letting it fester there, which we all, like, raise a hand if you haven't ever oppressed or ignored or sedated and pushed the snooze button on personal development, like, I don't want to do that. There's a time to put a pause on it, because sometimes we're not quite ready. And then there's also a time when the pain is so great, or the reward to break through it is like, I really want love, or I really want to do something in life that I love, or I don't want to carry this thing anymore, or I don't want to be sedating myself through life. So there's a lot of motivations that will bring us to that point where we're ready to go look and shadow blast with courage and gentleness. It doesn't have to be painful or traumatic. It can be really beautiful, very sweet, and transformative.
Well, I came to you in 2019 in a really hard place. And that is where we initially met. It's been 5 years. And when I came to you, you identified a deep core wound, and it was self-abandonment. And all of the different ways I had been self-abandoning over and over were really shown to me in our session. And it was the greatest truth-telling that I had ever experienced. But the self-abandonment continues to be shown to me in all sorts of ways. And being a teacher of self-care and self-love, to know that I was abandoning myself was really tough. It was this like knife into my heart. Then we like really stuck it in there and turned it. And I'm like, oh gosh. So in order to identify self-abandonment in me, you have had to identify self-abandonment in you. And I'd love to hear how you started identifying that in yourself.
I think that this is, having done this work for 24 years, first of all, for all of us, our greatest teacher in classroom is going to be our own screw-ups, our own challenges, our own family dynamics and our own traumas and our own patterns and our own addictions. Like, there is fertile territory in there for all of us to look at, where am I stuck? Where am I doing this? Maybe it's not all these partners that are jerks. Maybe I have something to do with it. Just perhaps it's not all everybody else's fault. And I think there's a maturing that happens. There's been many times in my life where I'm like, okay, I'm willing to look at my part here. And I become a lot better at saying, what's my part? What's my part? Because I know that there's always something in a challenge where I can learn. Where's my part in it? Maybe it's only 3%, maybe it's 97%. But there's that willingness to look, which I think is very valuable. And also, having tens of thousands of different clients over the years, I also get to see self-abandonment, betrayal, insecurity, fear, and how it works its little claws into places. So that's why I'm able, with laser focus, to kind of go in and go, that thing, what you just said, that thing right there, come on, let's take a look at that. And I think that comes from a lot of experience and skill, and also, I can only, acknowledge and identify a self-abandonment because I've tripped over that so many times. And so in that self-abandonment is, why are you self-abandoning is the deeper question, because that, depending on what the motivation is for that self-abandonment, the pattern can be broken there because it's not all the same. I want approval. I want to succeed.
People pleasing.
I want to people please. I don't want to cause conflict. I don't want to upset people. I don't want to lose blank. Followership, respect, money, power, job, love, partnership. So then we can go to another level of depth. What am I afraid to lose? And why did I do this in the first place? And this is my favorite thing about the work that I do is, let's go to another layer of depth. Let's go to another layer of depth, because the real issue is way down here. Self-abandonment is just what is being done to try to protect or keep this safe, or to keep the wound from being opened up again. So I'm not afraid to go in there and go another layer, another layer, another layer. Now we're at the core thing. And it's interesting, having done this for so many years, how quick I can get to that. I can hear it, I can smell it, I can feel it. And then the real juice gets uncovered, and then you get to see what's there. and get to be held and encouraged through that process of introspection. And that's my skill, is to be able to identify those core wounds and and just to ask a question, hey, what is this really about?
Yeah, I really like what you had to say about just looking for what my part is in the thing that I'm dealing with. Because in a lot of the work that I've done with clients, helping them gain a sense of personal responsibility feels like it's a part of what that work is. And I get a sense from a lot of clients that they don't want to look at that part. They don't want to take personal responsibility because it's a lot easier to just place blame on everything around them. What do you think is standing in the way from people of just claiming ownership of their situation?
Then we ask another question. What's underneath? What's underneath? Because that can be, I don't want to fail. It can be, I have to succeed because I need dad's approval. Or then we start, because it's different for everybody. We have completely different configurations of our influences from childhood, our parent dynamics, our core wounds, our soul contract of maybe different things that we came in with, because some of that is being accountable for what is yours. And so I'll just say, hey, wait. That's actually your responsibility to make you happy. Hold on. It's not your mommy and daddy's responsibility when you're 35. Mm-hmm. That's actually your responsibility to follow your heart. It's your responsibility to respect you and start to unmesh some of the codependencies. Here's what happens when you make your parents responsible, or your partner, you need their approval. Here's where self-abandonment comes in. Mm-hmm. I would also say that there's hyper accountability as well, where people feel responsible for things that aren't theirs. And there's another delineation that says, hey, your dad's anger, your mom's insecurity, or whatever is not yours. And you're not accountable for your brother's sobriety or your sister's insecurity. You don't have to play small. So there's a lot of overcompensating, taking what isn't ours, from accommodating and people pleasing. And I love breaking up with those kinds of codependent patterns because it's very liberating.
It is very liberating.
It's very clear boundaries, and kicking codependency to the curb are some of my faves, definitely faves.
I'm so curious if you could just give such a clean, clear explanation for somebody that's never heard of what clean and clear boundaries are. What does that look like?
I think boundary often translates to a lot of people incorrectly as wall. And healthy boundaries is an acknowledgement that this is my space, this is my body, these are my passions, these are my values, these are my interests. And as a child, that compartmentalization that provides clear, safe space for an individual is just super messy in families. We're super susceptible to merge our energies with the people around us that we care about and that we love. And that's where it's easy to take on energy, somebody else's depression, somebody else's judgment, their hatred of a certain culture or a certain group of people. So we can take on prejudice, we can take on money beliefs, we can take on this is right and this is wrong. And I think our brains and our systems are so influenced during that time that we tend to take on a lot of things. And a lot of things are great. There's a lot of values and a lot of things that are passed to us that are fantastic and beautiful. And as we individuate and grow and evolve, it's our responsibility then to outgrow and shed some of those things that don't align with our ethics or our values, or actually never did. And at 10 or 6 or 16, when we're under somebody else's roof, we don't have the option to say no thank you. Or if we tried, we might have been bullied or shamed, or as long as you're under my roof, you're going to church, or as long as you're doing this, this is what we believe in. And so it's also enmeshed with unhealthy rewards of do this, you get rewarded by the family. Don't do this, you get punished by the family. So if I don't do this, the whole community, my whole family, the whole community and the church is going to, extricate me from belonging. Okay, I will self-abandon for sure to fit in. because I need a roof over my head. I need financial support. This is my family. This is my community. I can't be here without them. And so learning how to individuate, which usually doesn't happen until into adulthood. Sometimes that starts happening and it looks like teenage rebellion, but it's a lot of times it's just individuating. And then there's this power of, no, you can't individuate. I'll use manipulation. I'll use money. I'll use all kinds of guilt and shame and power to keep you in place. And that's why sometimes families grow apart after the kids leave, because they can do their own thing now and they're not under the thumb of family. And some are still very much under the thumb of family. And as an adult, we're learning how to individuate, to find who we are and have that freedom that says, even if this family member withholds their financial support and I'm not in the will anymore or whatever, at least I haven't self-abandoned to the point where I don't love and respect myself. Because when you're in that self-abandonment piece, when you're in that self-betrayal piece, that is going to go right along with depression. It's going to go right along with anxiety. It's going to go right along with addictions, because we're not in soul alignment with our integrity and our true essence. I mean, it's something all three of us have done in different ways when we've been most far from our soul truth. Highly likely that was when we were the most, like, here's smile, like, oh man. Highly likely that was our most self-destructive times. And I can put my hand up saying for sure, like the behaviors and the addiction and the sedating and the rebelliousness, hand in hand from when I was the farthest from my truth.
Well, I'd like to also highlight and touch in on integrity and being an integral facilitator and healer. And that is something that you just pounded into our heads and into our bodies, not physically, but during our training, was about integrity and how important it is to show up at our best, show up on time, show up clear, centered, grounded. So what is an integral facilitator to you?
Well, I think, when you are having the privilege and alongside of that, the responsibility to move into somebody's most intimate traumas, insecurities, pain, I feel like the level of responsibility and groundedness and presence and professionalism and skill goes up. When you're in somebody's intimate space, holding them through grief or a childhood trauma or a sexual abuse, or facing their darkest fears, or seeing their own shadow or afraid of their own anger, I feel that there's a high level of an integrity and responsibility, because to move into those spaces without awareness, with ungroundedness, without skill, without presence, without integrity, it's very, very easy and often happens that you make it worse. We're in somebody's most tender, scary places, and we're right on the landmines that they're afraid to have somebody see and certainly don't trigger. And so this is why integrity and groundedness is so important. If I'm doing a workshop and you're in the audience, it's a little bit different than when I'm doing hands-on support, and like we have had either in breathwork or private healing sessions where we're going into very private details that should be, for me, held with a high level of awareness and professionalism. And there's so many practitioners that are not fully in their body or fully skilled or fully trained in being able to move into those spaces, and the energy is being opened very quickly without necessarily the skill or the training to be able to navigate somebody through a transformation, through a release, through a healing, and then put it back together and help them with integration so that they leave you more whole than they came in. Not just, okay, I let out a lot of rage or I let out of a lot of tears, but also what is the lesson? What is the blessing? What are you learning? What are you doing now? What is this changing? And inviting them to integrate it into their life. And I think a skilled practitioner is not only going into depths, but also will take you out the other side to saying, okay, now that you know what's true, now what are you going to do with it? Because we didn't just have a healing experience. It was also like, here's some homework to keep walking this into your life and holding yourself accountable for making different choices.
Right. And then when I was applying for the training, she said, have you been doing your homework?
Right. The first time you said, I want to do the training, I'm like, do your homework. Because you weren't quite ready just yet. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, do your homework for another 6 months to a year. And then I was like, yeah, she's in her body enough now. Because when we're not in our body and we're so trauma, our nervous system isn't regulated and we're in self-abandonment patterns, we're actually not ready or embodied enough to hold space for somebody else's healing. Mm-hmm. There isn't enough integration of our own power and groundedness, which is required to hold space for somebody else. And so that extra time allowed you to come back home and own your power, and many months of choosing yourself and taking accountability for what had occurred to get you to that place. And you did it. And I've watched you do it over and over again. And I've watched Jonah do it over, And then when you were ready, when both of you were ready, you were truly ready and teachable and hungry, but there was enough of your core essence and power in your solar plexus, in your power center, to hold that energy and then allow your gifts to come in and to trust your intuition, and then be humble and teachable enough to learn new tools and try new things. And then when your fear came up, or comparisonitis, or I don't know what I'm doing, you also had enough skills to walk yourself off the ledge and not let the fear dragon win. You had enough tools in your own medicine bag to help you stay put, which is what you need when you're holding space for other people. Because if you don't have those tools, I guarantee when you're holding a breathwork ceremony or a coaching group and the energy is going off, if you don't know how to manage it for yourself, you won't be able to hold it for 10 people.
Yeah, I agree. And I think that, some of the things that I really learned through my experience in your training was the importance and the value of somebody that can really hold their ground and hold the space for somebody else. And a big aspect of that for me became, what practices do I need to incorporate in my life so that I can maintain this grounded energy? What rituals do I need to implement in my life so that I can maintain this sense of, being the mountain and being able to weather whatever storms come, whether it be in my relationship or with a client? And so I'm so curious to hear any insights or advice or tips that you might have, or what are some practices that people can have to maintain a grounded energy?
Thanks for asking that. I think for me, it has been clearing out a lot of dissonant energies from my life. I'm surrounding myself also with people that are also in their body, that are doing important work in the world, that are holding their practices to hold themselves accountable. So it's one, who you surround yourself. If you're just having wine with whiners every Friday night, then you're not really cultivating the accountable leader within. Right. And so a lot of my practices are filtering out high drama, ungrounded, not in alignment, people that tend to pull energy. Like, that's a client. That's not someone in my inner circle.
Sure.
And I like my time in the morning. Mm-hmm. I really like my time in the morning to get still, to get quiet. There's a lot more self-care practices so I can fill my cup back up. This morning, I did my morning meditation before I even come out of the room. And getting still and quiet. What vibration am I attending? What am I bringing today? And getting clear so that I'm bringing the best version. And self-care, high vibrational food, intentional mornings. And then also when I am getting triggered or there's irritation or an emotional intensity, I get curious. Why am I frustrated with this staff person? Why am I feeling irritated or short-tempered or impatient about this? I practice getting curious sooner when I feel dissonance. Like, hey, what is this? And what can I do differently? What is mine and what is not mine? Because that goes back to boundaries. Am I trying to tiptoe around somebody in ways that I don't have to? Where am I part of the problem? And then start taking action to make it come into alignment. I might need to set a boundary. I might need to speak up. I might need to step back from a friendship or a relationship that's not feeling aligned. I may need to have a conversation.
And those relationships can be a really tricky topic, though. There are some people that have really important relationships to them that are sticky, messy, leaky, gross. And so how would somebody navigate, I guess, releasing that dissonant energy, releasing that dissonant relationship if it's somebody that is a really important figure or has been a really important figure to them in their life?
What you can do is understanding your needs. What do I need? And if you need them to be a certain way that is beyond their capacity, then you need to adjust your expectations. And if you need them to text before they come over, if you need them to honor or respect your boundaries and it's beyond their capacity, then you need to be honest. Truth bomb time. And all you can do is extend the invitation to say, are you willing to have a conversation about this where we can find a win-win here? And they might be willing to talk it through. And those are the people that can make the transformation and the transition with you over time. And there's some people, I've had to set some boundaries with relatives around substance because I'm just not willing to have holidays that are totally dramatic and chaos because one relative is hitting the sauce so hard that they ruin the whole holiday. And I'm like, that's not okay with me. And it's not within their capacity to have a sober holiday. No problem. I get that. But I'm going to have you over until 8:00 and then not after that.
And we'll get you a cab.
And we'll get you a cab. And I have to really fast from guilt and shame that it's not my responsibility to make this person's holiday happy. That's their responsibility. They're invited, but they absolutely cannot ruin it for the rest of the family. That is not okay with me because my holidays are too important and I have the right to have it be a beautiful, fabulous space. That doesn't mean there isn't drama and there isn't that. That's not about trying to control people, but it's also saying, here's my edge, that if it's ruining the whole holiday, I don't have to say yes to that. I don't have to stay in dynamics if it doesn't feel that it's growing and respectful. I can put the invitation there and see if it's met. I can put a boundary there and see if it's honored. And if it's not honored, then it's not within their ability to honor it. And I just need to be honest about that. And I grieve sometimes about people or relationships that are not in alignment with who I'm becoming. And what happens when I grieve and I let it go, someone of higher caliber always steps up to take the place of that person. A sister, maybe there's an estrangement with a family member. I have found that, wow, 2 more people of higher caliber and higher integrity came in this person's place. When I didn't self-abandon and I didn't over-accommodate to meet their needs at my expense, then I find I have more energetic integrity to me to be able to go after the dreams, to hold space for the people and the dreams that are most important to me.
And the more that you're holding, the more space that you're holding and the really deep work that you get to do and that we have the honor of also facilitating, the more you need to create space in your life. The self-care has to get leveled up. The boundaries have to get leveled up. Everything has a higher caliber, like you were mentioning. back to facilitation, what would you say are some attributes and skills of a very well-practiced healer and facilitator?
It's an energy you'll sense when you're in their presence. To find somebody that is trustworthy for you, trust yourself and your own body's intelligence to be able to sense with how somebody's carrying themselves, how they speak, how they hold themselves, if that person is right for you. It's not the same for everybody because it can be about somebody's certifications, but if they're not embodied, then it's not about all the certificates they have in the wall. And so I like to tell people to trust their own intuition. It's stronger than you think it is about choices, about relationships, about healers, or about a path for your soul. Practice leaning in when you have a feeling, when you have a hell no or an F yes, trust yourself, because I don't have the answer, but I do know that your intuition does.
And that's really all that it's about, is asking yourself, what does a yes feel like in my body?
Yeah.
And what does a no feel like in my body? And then you start getting even better and sharper at discerning of what's right for me and what's not. And if somebody was wanting to go into the healing arts, and maybe they're in a corporate job and they're feeling this call, they know that they have gifts to share, how would somebody start navigating that?
Well, first of all, I love the closet lightworkers, that
Let's get them out of the closet.
Right? Because and not everybody's drawn to the healing arts. It's not for everybody. And you might have gone to, understandably so, as I did. I worked in New York City on 46th and 6th with a bob and a briefcase and a blue suit. I needed to have that experience. It was a great time in my life. I learned a lot about the matrix and power and the corporate ladder and compensation. And I learned so many different skills there. And so that I'm able to then bring that to my clients that are still in corporate. If you're getting this little stir, what is that? Those chakra things, or working with crystals or Reiki, what is that? Just give yourself permission to go try it. Go to a sound healing, go to a drum circle, have a Reiki session and see how you feel. There's so many different modalities. There's so many different paths within the healing arts. And if your soul is knocking on the door of your heart, that there is another path for you. That doesn't mean today you have to leave the accounting firm or that you have to quit your job and that that you and your children are going to be homeless and penniless. But what I invite you to do is just go explore, back to intuition. If you have a curiosity about a thing, then just go explore it, and your body and your soul will light up if it wants more.
It'll feel that yes.
It'll feel the yes. Or if you're like, oh, this was fun, but it's not my thing, then it's like, okay, I explored a thing. I didn't have to leave my job to just, then you start to find your own path that lights you up, whether it's sound healing or whether it's hands-on healing or if it's coaching or yoga or meditation. There's so many paths here. Give yourself permission to go explore and then follow the giggles. Follow that. Oh my God, that was so much fun. Or I had this feeling, or my hands lit up. I had this intuition to do this thing. And it's like, those are your divine gifts coming through. And I love, love, love when people come to the training. Some are already gifted healers and have a healing practice, and they just have reached a plateau and they're looking for more tools or greater impact because they're finding that Reiki is not enough and they want to go deeper. So I love working with people like that. And I also love, and especially in this last training, in every training, there's people that are just called and they go, I don't know what it is. I'm just called to do this. I love when people come because they're so hungry and they're so teachable and they're so curious. But what also happens when they get out of the way of their self-doubt and, oh, that's not for me, or I'm not good enough, or I could never, the miraculous thing that happens, which is so fun to watch and beautiful and a privilege to support, is their divine gifts start coming in. As I watched happen with you, Jonah, and I watched happen with you, Brittany, and it brings me to tears because it's such a gift to be helping people find their divine essence. And it doesn't mean that they were blocking it in their 20s or 30s or whatever. It just means that it's time now.
Yeah.
It's time now. And I love to support people in that place because they surprise themselves. I did the thing with my hands, and then I did and they find an instrument that all of a sudden they just have this natural gift with. And I'm like, yeah, trust that. Now try this other tool, put them together, and then let your intuition add the magic sauce. And the breakthroughs that happen, because you felt it. You both felt it when it clicked for you. And then once you find your gifts and you've been in that divine flow where your divine gift is moving through you without fear, without doubt, without comparisonitis or insecurity, you have direct access to power. And then you see, when we practice hands-on sessions, then you start to see that I really do have a gift here. And I'm like, you do? And you're like, no, I really do have a gift here. I'm like, yes. And the breakthroughs that happen, because now you can't go back. Once you've opened up the truth and you've felt it and you have had impact, now you're on that path to becoming a light worker that is based on your own natural gifts. And then you get to keep following your heart about which modalities, which instruments, which platform lights you up the most. And I have so much fun in the healing and the teaching space to help people find their way with that. So fun.
So far in this conversation, there's a few things that I'm really picking up on. Number one is that we really do have so much agency in our lives, and it's so important for us to exercise that agency. Number two is listen to that intuition, because it's always there to help us, always there to give us information. And number three is to really just lean into the curiosity of what is tickling your fancy in that moment. And I think for me, there's been a lot of times where that self-doubt has crept in and I didn't listen to my intuition, or I didn't follow those little crumbs of curiosity because it was weird or it was different or it was strange. And that required a lot of my own, just stepping out of my own way. And that's really challenging for a lot of people. I appreciate what you said, that not everyone is called to the healing arts. Not everyone is meant to be a facilitator. Right. Not everyone is meant to help participate in somebody's healing. But there are a lot of people that need help. There are a lot of people that are suffering, and a lot of them are suffering silently. And so I think it's really a great opportunity to encourage you as a listener and anyone that is hearing this to just be okay with asking for help and be okay with seeking help when you feel you need it, because there's no need for us to suffer all our lives. I would really love to hear from you. What's the greatest story you've got of somebody's transformation through the work that you've done with them?
Oh, wow. Thank you for asking that question. And what you said about just follow your intuition, whether it's to the healing arts or whether it's to write a book or whether it's to like plant trees or do like inner city gardens, this is for everybody listening and watching. And the invitation that we're inviting you to step forward is when you have that like intuitive knocking on your heart's door, just give yourself permission to slay the fear dragons and the doubts and the what ifs and just be like, let me get curious and let me put a toe in the water. Let me just go take a course. Let me just go read a book. Let me just go ask for help, because then your intuition will say, oh my gosh, yes, more of this, or close, but it's not quite. Like it's not quite this. Great. Well, then what shift or adjustment do you need to make? Maybe it's a different teacher. Maybe it's a different modality. Maybe it's a different platform. Maybe it's speaking instead of writing. Maybe it's with children instead of adults. And then you just are constantly refining. So this is with any dream, not just the lightworker healer path, but follow your heart. We need you stepping into your heart's like true essence, because the solutions to our problems are within you that are listening and watching, because you wouldn't be listening to this if there wasn't an opportunity to be like, I could step up more. There's dreams and gifts within me. There's abilities, skills, and solutions that people, the planet, children, whoever need. So blanket statement, let's go.
Let's go.
Like that. Okay, so there's that. And then to answer your question about
just the greatest transformation you've been witness to in this work.
You know, there was one client years ago, and from her own traumas from childhood, were really creating massive chaos in her marriage and also in her parenting. She had a little boy, and her self-abandonment behavior, her infidelities, her hypersexuality, her substance abuse. I mean, it was a mess. It was a mess. And when we met, she was, it was whether or not she was going to maintain custody. I mean, she was about to lose her son. She was about to lose her son. There was a lot at stake. And this was like truth time. This was truth time. Because there's a time when you're a coach or a healer to be the shoulder, to allow somebody to grieve or to be upset. There's the time to be the teacher. Let's learn a new skill. Let's learn a new process, a new technique, a new way of handling a situation. And there's also the truth teller that is like, no, that's actually not yours, or that's actually not true, or that is yours. And if you want to make a change, it's not about what he does. And like, stay in your lane. And so there's also a time to be the truth teller. And I think a great healer, teacher, coach will have the range where they can be all of those, and the skill to know which, when, and for how long. But in this situation, it was a combination of grieving, I might lose my son, grieving the loss of the relationship, grieving the fear of, if I lose this marriage, then how am I going to financially support myself? And just a whole lot of energetic messes that were happening from the self-abandonment, the chaos, the unhealed wounds, that was not only overflowing into a very challenging marriage. It was not an easy marriage. A lot of power struggles, a lot of financial manipulation. And so she had to learn how to stand in her power and her truth. So that took years of working with her to peel back the layers and to step into her truth and to get back into her body and to choose sobriety on her own terms so that she could be more in her body, and that the drugs and alcohol wasn't creating more chaos. And let's get at the core wounds, because you could say, okay, I'm going to be sober, but if I'm not looking at what's underneath it, I'm going to find other ways to create chaos.
Yeah.
So that, working with that relationship with her to step into her power and to be responsible and to mature and to have different tools and to have clear boundaries with her during the ongoing divorce and with child care, parenting agreements. And so watching that and being supportive with her over the years to grow into her maturity, to grow in her womanhood, to grow into her power, and find ways that she could provide for herself without having to be dependent on him for money, and clearer communication and how to be in her body and how to stand up for herself and how to be a better parent. And watching that transformation. And years later, she was in her body enough to then come and do the training. Years after that, she then holds space for other people's healing and transformation in the most beautiful ways. And there's story after story after story of living in the Midwest and like, I'm afraid that, I don't tell anybody that I'm here in Sedona. And, she got a little chakra necklace, kind of like I have here with the chakras on the back. She's like, well, when I go back to the Midwest, when I go back to Ohio, I have to hide this. So, overcoming shame and finding her voice and not enabling pot smoking with her husband and children and not overeating, and over the years learning different tools. And now that woman has come to the training, and she is a Reiki massage sound healer, and actually lives in Sedona, and her whole family shifted as well because she just stepped into your power. She's like, well, I need to change them. I'm like, actually, you don't. Because if they change or not, that's not within your power.
Right. You get to change.
They may or may not level up, change, but you don't have to hold yourself back whether they do or whether they don't. And just to have a woman come back into her power, so much so that the rest of the family rose because they were inspired by her. There's just decades of stories and transformations in families that, on the verge of suicide or at the verge of, heroin overdose, that we walked back from the ledge, the whole family. There's so many deep wounds that I've had the privilege to help an individual or a family walk back into their power, into their truth and their light, and then see them turn around and then help others with the process. There's hundreds of those.
It's so beautiful.
It's amazing.
And you have such a divine gift of seeing people's potential and holding them to a higher standard. I could see that when we first met.
Yeah.
You could see my potential and you're like, no, sister, there's more in there.
Yeah, right.
So thank you.
And it's been such an honor to watch you grow and to step into yoga and your voice, into the meditation and into the different breath work and healing and sound practices, and for you to find your own medicine within that and how you have to be in your body to hold your gifts. And that happened first. You had to come back into your body and clean up some things. And from there to watch you step into your gifts, and you've helped so many people with your recordings and with the experiences that happen here at BZen, and then of course with the podcast and with different retreats and immersions. Brittany, it's been beautiful to watch you grow. It really has.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, it is. And then Jonah, she went first and you're like, but I want to play. And
it's kind of like we were talking about that woman, the family witnessed her step into her power and was like, I'm coming along for that ride. I want to step in my power too.
Yeah. In your own timing. And it was beautiful to watch you, Jonah, find your truth in your own way, and how your presence is so healing when you trust it. And then from that, I've seen you hold space for women in ways that helps them heal from wounds that have come from men. When you're in integrity and you're clear and you're grounded and you're confident, the amount of space that is held to allow somebody to heal is phenomenal. And then for you to help other men, as you have come in to find your own essence of what it is to be an embodied man. And then now to see you hold space for other men to find their own unique voice, that it's not just looking this way and it's not looking that way. It's authentic, and to not model after somebody else, but to find your own version of manhood. And then within that, be a role model as a partner, and how you've grown and been able to hold space in a marriage container, and as a leader and a business strategist. It's really beautiful that you're really stepping into that. And then in someday, as parents, because I also know that that's a dream and a vision that you have. Yeah. And because you did that earlier work, how you've shown up for each other is such a role model for other couples that are going through similar challenges, whether it's growing pains, spiritual growing pains, or it's a health challenge or family dynamic challenges. You two have really grown in how you show up for each other, and you're going to help a lot of other couples navigate growing pains of a marriage.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
It's all true.
Thank you.
And it's interesting to go through this journey together, because it hasn't been without a lot of hardship.
Yeah.
And as before we wrap things up, the last question I'd like to ask you is, what words of wisdom would you offer to yourself during your greatest hardship?
Oh, which greatest hardship? I'd say one of the first ones when I was 12, when everything just seemed super dark. The adults were super lost. And I'm like, something's not right here. I would say to that version of me that didn't feel safe and that felt lost, of like, the light is there. You'll find it. You don't have to go into the darkness like everybody else. Like, follow your heart. It's the light. That's all the light you need. And just be patient. I know it's scary now, but you're going to get through this and you're going to be stronger. And you're just studying darkness so that you know how to navigate your way through it. And there was this poem that around 12 came to me somehow. Like, my Aunt Pinky sent us the daily word from the church. And my dad would usually get there first and throw it away because it was like, stupid shit. And it wasn't his thing. And I was just so curious about it. And one day, during one of those dark times, I found that and I opened it up and there was this one poem. And I can't remember a knock-knock joke. Like, I just don't have that kind of memory. But this, when I read it, it was like a brain tattoo. And it said, had a little picture of a candle in the dark room, and it had this little picture of a candle with a little flame around it, little halo. And it said, no deep darkness in the world can overcome the light. A single candle flame will burn against the darkest night. Let all the world of darkness come, resentments, envies, and fears, and light the single flame of love, and the darkness disappears. And to this day, that gives me chills, because we will all find dark times, whether it's with a diagnosis, a divorce, a death, a big life upheaval, a big life change. We're all going to have those dark nights where it's not all roses and rainbows and unicorns. And I'd say to my younger self, that poem, like, you are the light, you will get through this, and keep coming back to love, keep coming back to love. And when I was going through my marital liberation, also known as divorce, with twins that were 3 years old at the time, it was a very challenging time for myself. Same thing, like, you're doing the right thing. Trust your heart. Get the help and support you need, because I needed help and support to heal the wounds and the anger and the pain and the sadness. And I needed help, and I reached out for it and I got it. And it wasn't traditional therapy for me. It was like shamanism, shamanic breath work, emotional releases, but it was also learning new tools, because I wasn't going to grow with the tools that were passed to me from my childhood. Mm-hmm. So I would say, trust your heart. Honor and respect yourself even when others don't. Ask for help and grow. Learn new tools so that you can have a different outcome. Learn new tools so that you break the pattern. Because if I had stayed in the anger and rage during my divorce, I would have passed it right on to my kids, just like my dad passed his anger and rage from his childhood onto me. And that was the time for me to do a lot of healing work that just never got tended to, because I wanted to be a mom that wasn't going to raise my voice or let my pain and suffering overflow onto them, because that's not theirs to hold. And it's my responsibility. It doesn't matter who did what. It's my responsibility to clean it up, because it's not going to be an apology from anybody that is actually going to heal the core wounds. I've got to go in there and get the support I need to help me heal those core wounds, and then ask for support so that I can learn better tools to navigate pain. And when I'm upset, to have better, clearer communication, more self-care, clearer boundaries. And everything that I've learned, I teach, because I know how important it was in my journey back to finding my own self and my own truth, so that I could be a better mom to two fabulous, like, my kids now they were 3 then, they're now 27. I'm so excited to continue doing this journey with you guys, because I know this next chapter of our lives is so magical. And, you guys being in my corner, supporting Shine, being a facility where people can go and have these experiences has been really, you've been wind underneath my wings with that vision. And so I appreciate your support and your advice and, your encouragement to go after my dream in bigger levels, because it's scary AF.
Yeah.
I'm still learning and growing, and I couldn't do it without people like you in my corner, for sure.
Thank you so much.
Pleasure. And we are all so adorned today in our gifts from Shine and the treasures that you carry in your shop that's available online. You can find Shine at shinesedona.com. Is there anything else that you want to share with our listeners? Where to find you, what to learn?
Well, if you are going through a thing and you're just seeking support or breakthrough, or you want to find your voice or get into your power, or there's some core wounds, we got you. If that's individual sessions, or that's a multiple day retreat, a goddess retreat, a wellness retreat, or if you are called to the healing arts, then come to the training. Absolutely. Or come and shop at Shine. And if you can't get there, then you can go online. So that eagle cuff, and then the wing kimono that you have on, and the chakra necklace. There's so many fabulous things, so come and shop. But I just want you to know that if you're going through something, you don't have to go through it alone. And I am here, Shine is here, and we have all these different offerings, and virtual too. So if you can't get away because you've got business or family commitments, then there's virtual experiences, there's virtual counseling, and there's virtual sessions and workshops. Otherwise, save up and plan a trip to Sedona and let us tailor something magical, or come to a retreat, or
Host a retreat.
Yeah. If you are somebody that hosts masterminds or retreats or yoga or sound healing or immersive women's or men's retreats, you can host them at Shine. It's a stunning venue.
It really is.
It really
it's beautiful.
is.
We've had the honor of facilitating there, and we can't wait to come back.
Thank you so much, Anahata.
Yeah. It's my pleasure.
We love you. You're amazing.
Go forth and shine.
Yes. We love you. Thank you for joining us today on the Be Zen Wellness Podcast. We hope this episode leaves you feeling inspired to continue on your personal quest.
If you enjoyed today's episode, please subscribe to our podcast and leave us a review. And if you want to learn more or dive deeper into these topics, visit our website and follow us on social media.
Until then, friends, breathe deep, take some time for yourself, and remember, you are already whole. Goodbye, dear hearts.